Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Iryna. I'm a licensed therapist, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my path to begin with. But I am, licensed therapist myself, but I'm someone who's been always interested in psychedelics. I discovered them in 2011 when I went to Burning Man, and since then they've been always a part of my path and a part of my passion. And I started my therapy journey just a year before psychedelics, and I really like therapy. I think it's really useful, but I've always been frustrated. I don't know if you guys had this experience if you've been in therapy, but I've been always frustrated with that's like, oh my God, it's so slow. Like just doing this therapy and talking, and like I want to go deeper. I was always looking for ways to go deeper. And I used a number of tools for that. Like I meditated, I did yoga, I did breath work. And all of that is a way to access altered states. But then once I discovered psychedelics, for me, there was like no better tool. I was just like, yes, this is exactly what I've been looking for to allow myself to transform and go deeper. Um, and back when I started using psychedelics, I they were kind of like they still a bit controversial even in therapy field. And when I started using them, it was back 2011. I couldn't even tell my therapist I'm using them. She just kind of said like, okay, Iryna, yeah, sure, you want to escape reality, blah blah blah, and she's kind of like dismissed the use of psychedelics. And I was really upset by that and felt not supported because I just really felt like they allowed me to touch places in myself that I wasn't able to access with other tools or a normal psychedelic or a normal therapy. So I just felt like they were letting me, and I don't know if you've had this experience with psychedelics, but they are letting me to connect to who I truly am. And that's I still think is the value of them. And I personally I became licensed in 2016, and for a while we couldn't really do psychedelic therapy, but lately we're experiencing a renaissance and interest in psychedelics, and ketamine now being legal. That's we can now practice it. So I've been doing that since 2022, so 2.5 years, and really loving the path because it's been such a big part of my journey. Um, and hopefully, MDMA is going to be hopefully approved next month, and August 11th is the date. So that's what we really hoping to be approved in psychedelic therapy space. Okay, so who is this presentation for? So I named this class for class for high achievers, but really it's for anybody who have an ambition, who has a dream and feels like they are getting stuck on something, or there's something getting in the way, or maybe it's just a goal. Maybe you don't need to be like this high achiever with, okay, I want to be CEO of the company, but something's getting in the way. Maybe it's simpler than that, or maybe it's writing a book or something you want to achieve, something that you feel like there's something in you that wants to be expressed, right? Something just like, for example, this week, I wanted to do this class. I felt like I want to actually do something, present what I'm passionate about, and it's something in me wanted to be expressed. And then what you experience is this like, okay, you want this next thing for you, like next goal or big dream or big project, creative project, but then you find yourself not doing it. You're finding yourself like I found myself this week watching Netflix. It was just really funny. I shared it on Facebook. Like I literally sat there and watched for 3 hours this new show, which is great, by the way. But anyway, it's just, or you find yourself scrolling Facebook, or I don't know, there's something that gets in the way, or you're just not doing it. You're avoiding it. You're doing something just not to do this. And my old way, or people who, maybe it's ambitious, high achievers, whatever. It's just, the name. Maybe you don't, whether you identify with it or not, but a lot of us who identify with that, like myself, we used to like push our way through this. Sometimes there's like a will, or there's a push, or like I have to do this. I'm gonna do this. And there's like this force that we apply to move through the procrastination, to move through the block self-sabotage. We're like, okay, I gotta do it. And it works, but there's a cost to it. There is a cost of moving through life in this way. And maybe you can put some, the kind of cost you've experienced. But eventually that way of functioning and achieving in that way led me personally to a burnout, to exhaustion, to kind of feeling depleted because I was using so much willpower and force and strength that, there's something in a system that gets depleted by that. And there's, so I don't know, you can share what you experience, but this is common experience with clients I work with. It's also like high achievers. They do things, but it's through this like force and pushing and criticism, like I need to do it, judgment, like if I don't do it, I'm not gonna feel good enough. It could be some that you might be aware of it, but not. And also there's a lot of people who come to me sometimes say like, I know I meant to do something in this life. I want to do something, but I'm not doing it, and I'm getting older, and I know I'm meant for more. Like I know that I'm meant to be, I don't know, a manager, but I'm just, member of my team, and I know I'm meant to lead. I know I'm meant to do more, but I just can't. I find myself not being able to do it, feeling stuck, feeling so afraid that I can't move through this, finding myself procrastinating, avoiding it, all the self-sabotage, just everything but not doing the thing. I don't know if you resonate with that. I hope you are. But it's usually we have this potential, right, in us, and if we want to express it, usually something comes in the way. A lot of times, sometimes we don't even know what it is. We kind of feel lost. Like clients I work with in the past, they came to me and they like didn't want to do anything. They just kind of felt depleted, get lost, no motivation, no energy, just like blah. And that's another block we can encounter on this path. And I'm gonna talk about how psychedelics can be helpful, because we don't need psychedelics. It's just a tool. There's so many tools right now. There's like era of self-development, there's coaching, there's therapy, there's yoga, meditation, retreats, everything you can imagine. So I just personally love psychedelics. It's my favorite thing in the world, if you will. And it's been so helpful, just so helpful to move through my own stuff with their help. So I'm personally very grateful that they exist. When I do my journeys, I always start with like, thank you, whatever, for having this available to us, because wow, just they help so much. And so let's talk a little bit about this pain of having the dreams and not being able to move it. Move towards your dream, move towards your purpose, move towards your creativity, passion, something that wants to be expressed through you. Sometimes it takes decades. It's literally, we get stuck in this for years sometimes. And there's pain in that. There's pain in not being able to achieve our full potential, because I don't know if you resonate with this. I hope you do, but it's like, that you're meant to be someone and you're not becoming it. You're not that person. You feel there's like a disconnect between what you feel inside and what you express in the doing and outside. So there's like inside, outside disconnect. And there's like this longing or yearning to do something and become alive, become expressive, move this energy, but and then there's stuckness and blocks and lack of movement. And so there could be emptiness, it could be pain, sense of just life is getting by and it's empty and meaningless. Like it's just like, yeah, I'm going through the motions of life, but it's not this, it's lacking this juice, aliveness, movement of energy. It's like this, sometimes boredom, sometimes it's just routine, so I don't know if you can put it in the chat if you like to connect to what the pain is for you in that, not moving towards your goal. And like I said, my own process this week kind of reminded me of what it's like when I do this class. It's a small example, right? It's maybe not such a big thing, but for me, it's like I want to do this, and then there's the resistance. I don't want to do it. 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 And it's we can get stuck in the space for a long time. So let's talk about why we don't want to do it, right? So what is it's happening in our psychology that gets in the way of us becoming all that we really are? Yeah, and you guys saying that the pain is self-esteem helping. Yes, and that's exactly it, because there's so much self-judgment in that. There's like, I want to do it, I don't do it, and now I feel like I can't do it. Or I'm lazy. Like I actually had this experience this week. Like I want to do this, I want to, market, and then I feel like I'm procrastinating. Here's daytime. Instead of working on my dreams or my goal, I'm watching Bridgerton. And then after watching it for 3 hours, I'm like, wow, really? I just wasted all this time? Like, really? Like, there's so much self-judgment in that. And it could be shame. It could be, like, especially if we said to someone, like, I want to do this, and then we don't. And they kind of like, oh, we, might fear of that shame and criticism from others. But there's also internal shame and criticism, like, I'm not capable. I just can't do it. Just the feeling I feel actually a lot. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Powerlessness. Can't do it. So, and it's actually a normal part of the process, but we don't necessarily know that. Yeah. Dreams are bigger than the energy level. Yep. I had that too. I had this like, I'm gonna change the world. And then one person at a time, feeling back. Okay, so let me show you so what I'm gonna present to you is a model. It's not necessarily like the truth, but I like models. They help me to explain what's happening. Okay, so here's my psyche model. Okay, can you guys see it? Yeah, you give me thumbs up. Okay. So this is model of psyche. I didn't create it. It's available from different models. So I use different models, depth psychology, IFS. So this is not like I created it, but it's sort of appears in a lot of therapy models, psychology model. Yes. Okay. And yeah, exactly. Afraid that I would never get to getting work done, so I have to use willpower and force to do it. Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, are you aware of the costs of doing this push? There's usually a cost, which if it wouldn't be any cost, then it's we would all move through life in this way. It's just there's a cost too. to that. Okay, so let's talk about the center. So if you look at the center, those are the qualities that we all want. Yeah, exactly. Burn down is the cost. Depletion. So here's the center, right? This is what we all want to experience. This is our, what I believe, like natural state. It has creativity, joy, love, vulnerability, sensitivity, playfulness, flow, freedom, responsibility, and alignment. This is what our potential is and looks like. And as children, we come in life full of that. And I have a pleasure of watching. I have 3 kids, so I can attest to that, we all have that. All kids come with this. This is not something like somebody has it and somebody don't. No, we all have it. We come into this life like full of that. In some psychology, it's called magic child place, right? Or you remember how easy it is for, if you're a child and free, how easy it is to create and play, and there is a natural flow state. I can just see that. Does everybody else see the board with my? Okay, Ben can see it, so I don't know, Kevin. There's a. Okay, we can see it. Oh, wait, is somebody changing it?
Oh, that's somebody stretching it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Oh, okay. Well, you can make it bigger. How about this? Let's keep it at this, because I want to keep. I don't know if you can see it.
I don't see anything. I just see a white board.
Weird.
Maybe it's his version of Zoom.
Yeah. Maybe you don't have a whiteboard. Here, I can. How about I'll just share. I can share mine. Here.
Maybe you could point to, is this saved as an image somewhere?
Yeah, it is.
You can just share a link to that image in Google Images or something.
Okay, let me see. I'll just share it to my a link to my notes, and then here. Oh, here we go. Let me just try this real quick. Okay. No. Copy. Can I copy and paste in circle in this? No. Share. Okay. Here, I'm gonna copy this. So you can, anyone with a link, copy the link, and here it is. Okay, so you can open it and there will be a diagram. Okay, so there's here in the center, that's how we come into this world. And then, oops, and then something happens to us, usually. So even if we don't experience trauma, which is what, I work a lot with, that's definitely kind of creates blocks for us. But even if we're not, I don't know, supported in these places, like for example, if you had a parent who's I don't know, depressed, and here you are full of life, full of joy, full of creativity, they are depressed, they're not able to see you, witness you, affirm you in your natural aliveness and state, you're gonna create some blockages, because it will be, you want your parent to see you, so you're gonna maybe shut it down on some level so you can meet your parents. So a lot of times, I know I come from, Soviet Union background, and when I was growing up, it was hard life. It's not like my parents could be like, yeah, joy and love, like, right? They were struggling to survive. They were really like money to study, just really survival stance. And they couldn't really witness me in this circle of place. So I had to shut it out in some way. Had to put it away, or sometimes we're shamed for it. Sometimes like when we create and we, show it to our parents, they're not able to witness in a way that affirms to us that we are creatives. So this is how the second circle is created, which is called the circle of wounded child. So in the center, it's a circle of magic child, which is this called positive, but all this life qualities. And the second circle starts to develop, which is the circle of pain, or we also call it the circle of wounded child. And there's where shame resides, fear, guilt, anger, loneliness. So it's basically this in this circle, it's all the difficult experiences that we had as children that we have to go through. So some of us less, some of us more. So if you experience physical sexual abuse, that would be a lot of this pain. And if it's, maybe you got lucky, you had great parents, but even if you had great parents, but they were, for example, very critical of themselves, they probably were not really just able to see you and affirm your playfulness, aliveness, and your essence. So this is where your essence, like your true self, your essence, who you really are when you just free. So this is the second circle. And the third circle, which has got a little stretched out, but anyway, this is a place of masks, protection, perfectionism, so this is where we usually operate as adults, unfortunately. That's where we procrastinate. That's where we have an idea what I should do, I have to do. So it's a level of protective parts. In some modalities, it's called protectors. So for example, if I was stuck in perfectionism, right? I'm like, I have some of that. straight A student, unfortunately. But I will be like, I need to nail this class, right? I need to nail it. It needs to be perfect. So I will put so much pressure on myself to be a certain way, to create a certain way, to create like something a certain way, that it will underneath create fear. So see, like this creates this. So there's always, they're always kind of linked. So this is outer layer and there's a deeper layer here. So if I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform, there's always going to be fear of not meeting that expectations. And guess what happens when you feel that fear to not meet expectations? You cannot be in the flow. You cannot be in the creative, playful process. It becomes a performance, like, I need to be, I need to be a certain way. So it will always take you out of this center where you naturally want to be. So what another way? Let's talk about procrastination, right? So procrastination is a similar way. It's a way to avoid those deeper feelings. So usually procrastination is like, I don't want to feel something. So when I was dealing with my own procrastination earlier this week, there was a layer underneath it that I didn't want to feel. There was some fear of I don't know, showing up, expressing myself, showing myself to the world, a fear of rejection. So all of this deeper feelings were here. And a lot of times people get stuck in this outer circle, living from a mask, from a false self, from inner critic, constant judgment, constant feeling I have to do something, constant pushing. And if we push, there will be parts. So this will be, I use the analogy of gas and brake, pushing at the same time. So this part will push, like a perfectionist, or that high achieving part that's pushing, and so we'll push, like pushing on the gas, but the brake will be this second layer, something that's like, I don't want to do it. It doesn't feel good. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of not succeeding. Or there's shame. Shame is a big one. That's like, oh, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to show myself. And this place inside of us, this where the creativity joys, we start here as infants, and then we kind of like travel out. So we start here, and then something happens, we experience pain, and then we'll put a mask. We experience shame, we put another protection. We defend this place. And our journey in therapy is travel back to the center. So we usually start, so clients come in and they usually start here. So this with or without psychedelics. So they start here. And then we travel back through the pain, through the shame, through the fear, all the uncomfortable, difficult stuff to the center. So a part of this process is always dealing with the second layer, which is what a lot of us who don't have support or who don't know the process, we don't want to go there. We don't want to feel those feelings, which is very normal, part of human instinct. I don't want to feel the pain. I want to feel pleasure, or at least I don't want to feel the pain. I'm just going to be stuck here and avoiding it. And so we sometimes go back and forth here. Like we procrastinate, then we feel shame about it. Then we go back to procrastination to deal with shame. And we never complete this movement to the center, because we need to move through the difficult feelings. And sometimes we don't know how, we don't have any resources. Nobody else is doing it. So we just kind of bounce here back and forth. And that's where psychedelics come in, because this process, moving through pain, is extremely, painful. It's difficult. It's not fun. Just I say it with a smile because it's like, it's fun for me, but for most people. And so that's where psychedelics come in, because psychedelics give us opportunity to move through this layers, these defenses, quicker. So sometimes it takes years in traditional talk therapy to move through a protection like this. And with psychedelics, especially, I think MDMA is probably like the best for dissolving the defenses because of how it works in the brain and how much it releases oxytocin and trust and safety. But also, ketamine also does this as well. It just different mechanism, but it also moves through defenses, through the pain, and you're able to access this, what you really are. The center is what you really are. So it's not like, it's more like unlearning, this whole process. It's more like remembering who you are, coming back home. It's not like achieving something that's you're not. It's very, in a way, it's very natural and easy process, and your psyche wants to do it. That's why once we start the process, we just have to follow your natural ability to remember, to know, to want to get there. And psychedelics is great help in that because of that reason, that they allow us to move through the process. Because you see, like this center is extremely vulnerable place, and so you want to, it's natural that it will be protected. So it's sometimes when we come to therapy, it takes a long time to get there. So let me see. Jan, do you have a question about this? I know I can.
Yeah, question or observation.
Okay.
Like I get this thing, but the thing I noticed is that there's a false self thing.
Yeah.
So let's say you travel to this middle circle, and it's like amazing, right? And then you travel back and you discover that your whole life you built around something else, and like your job is based on
Yeah.
different things that are not inside of the circle,
Yeah.
and you kind of needs the money to survive. So you can't really just say, oh, come on, I'll start over and just drop everything. So you kind of stuck having this false self that supports you
Yeah.
and this new self that is kind of helpless.
Yeah. Well, the new self, so the helplessness is still here. So ideally we move through the helplessness and powerlessness to the sense of power. Actually, power is also in the center. So ability, you're feeling like you can do things. But you bring up a very good point, and it does happen in this process, which is, I was going to mention that kind of like the pitfalls or the difficulties in this process is that sometimes your whole life is built on this false self-identity, in that you're absolutely right. Maybe you created the whole career here, and now you've done some psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, and you're like, yeah, that's not who I am. I don't want to do this. And now you have a mortgage and a family to support, right? So it's there comes a point where, you know, it's a difficult process, but once you hear, usually what can happen, you create a plan. And because there's also, look, there's responsibility here, and responsibility is also one of our innate qualities that we say, okay, well, look, I made these commitments and they're mine. And so I'm going to create an exit strategy for myself, like a plan, 2-year transition plan. And this is exactly what happened to me, because I was like high achiever, perfectionist, you know. I became, you know, I worked for Google at some point, and then I realized, oh shoot, I'm meant to be a therapist. Actually, this is what I'm meant to do. This is my true self, is doing this work, what I'm doing now. My full self is about accomplishments, about looking good, about, you know, looking good on paper, having money, all those things. So I created like a transition plan of 2 years. So I still continued working at Google for a few years, and then I went to school and so it's not like you suddenly, you know, realize like, okay, I have to drop everything and now become here. But you can then create a transition plan and implement it. But you know, it's hard. It's not easy, but yet is it worth it? That's the thing. That's the question. And for me personally, like I let go of a lot of like financial success in the beginning, and I was like, I don't care if I'm poor, but I want to do this work. But it's, you know, it's personal, and everybody has their comfort level. But you know what? You get to decide that. If you say, okay, like, no, right now I actually still want to keep working and keep providing for my family, but maybe like in 5 years time, I'll do something else, or starting doing something on a side to fulfill your soul calling. You know, you get to decide that from a very empowered place. Does it make sense? Or is it kind of like,
It does. The question is though, do you always know what to do once you're in this middle circle, like what the plan is? Because right
yeah,
now I don't really know what the plan is.
you do.
You do,
Usually
okay.
you do.
All
Usually
right.
you can know what's the next step is. Maybe you don't see the whole plan, but you have this movement of energy, and it will show you, like it will nudge you. It doesn't come from the mind. That's the thing. So the mind, like stuck in the mind, is still here. This is like in your belly, in your core, you know, the movement of you know, like, you know, you want to do this. It's yeah, usually undeniable. It's undeniable. I have to say it. If you hear it's moving, you are being lived. You're not, you know what I mean? It's bigger than you in a way, this energy that's moving you. But I actually did experience, I watched clients experience the dissolution of the full self. And it's a process. And I always say, like, you do this psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, give yourself a year to integrate the experience. Don't make rush decisions. It's actually always an agreement that we have, that after something like this, you don't make, like, you don't divorce your wife, you don't like leave your job, you don't do any of this. You let it integrate into your whole being, and you know, you don't rush into things. But it's very unsettling. It's a danger doing this. It's a danger. This is a danger of doing this work that you pointed out, and also experiencing the second circle. So it's like opening, can you imagine, like you usually we have this in our body: pain, shame, fear, guilt, anger, all this stuff, and then you do psychedelics and you kind of like opening the faucet of all of it to come out, and now you start feeling it. So it's like people like, oh, I'm feeling all this pain and shame, like what is this? And yeah, it's a necessary step in the process. And usually also psychedelics give us a sense of love, or something to carry us through this pain, because otherwise it can be quite intense and unbearable. That's why we stuck. We tucked it away because it was so hard to feel, and now we going back and feeling all of that. So it's I say, like, this path is not for faint of heart. Like, it takes courage to go into those places, and feel of that, go into the dark corners of your psyche and meet yourself there and sit there and feel it. And yeah, it's hard work, and yet the results are so amazing. Like, once you get here, like, you don't want to go anywhere. Like, you're like it feels like you're home. You're finally home. So to me, it's been worth it, to, even though it felt like everything here. And I was lots of times I was like, I don't want to feel that. Like, when is it gonna be over? Yeah, but there's nothing like it to be reconnected to who you really are. Okay, let me see. Any other questions? I think that might be. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to speak to what Jan was talking about, because I've been living through that. Like, I built my whole life. I was a producer. I am a producer, and on perfectionism and on these certain things in a very linear way of doing things. And then some things happened in my life that my father was dying. So I changed that, and I came up against, it was before I started doing psychedelic, like assisted kind of spiritual therapy work, like spiritual growth work. And so I really had to come up against all of that. And there was a couple years there where I was just like in pain. And then there was a couple years there where I was just lost and trying different things. And then now the work is I'm starting to experience the benefits of the work. And was able to make a plan, and was able to am able to start seeing the path and seeing the light. And I had to make a lot of sacrifices, like not being as productive, not making as much money, like not knowing who I am, not feeling good about myself. Like, I had so much identity wrapped up in my capability. So I've had to go through all of those things. And now, it wasn't easy and it wasn't quick. But I do have to say that I'm starting to experience the benefits of that. And it's worth it. And it's not like, oh my God, I've got all this great stuff. It's like better than what I was doing, worth it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like helpful at all, but I just really understand that. So I just wanted to share if that's helpful in any way.
Thank you. It's really helpful. And it also reminds me that, yeah, a lot of times we're pushed into this work, like we go through a crisis. So say like divorce is a big one, when you're married, you like something you're building your life on, it falls apart, or you sometimes lose a job, or sometimes you get diagnosed with cancer, and there could be a push, something you met with the finality of this life, or with loss, and then you have to do, you don't have a choice. You get pushed into this work. and it's a blessing and also,
Yeah, for me, it was a gift. Like, you wouldn't think my father dying would be a gift, but having to change everything to be with him ended up giving me this crisis and giving me this path, which
yeah,
is giving me a whole new life that I don't know if I would have found my way there on my own.
exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. And in my own process also, I went through like depression that I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't do anything. So all this, here I am, high achieving, working for
Yeah.
big companies, corporations, like at the start of my career was like, and I cannot get out of bed. Like, what is this? And
Yeah.
that's because the second circle was so overwhelming that it just knocked me out. So in a way, it is a blessing, but it was hard. It was freaking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have a question
Sure.
that I kind of missed what you said. You said MDMA is really good for this process because of, was it trust or defenses, or you said
Yeah, because of how it works in the brain and how releases a lot of oxytocin and
oxytocin?
serotonin is kind of like feel good feelings. So you can move through the second circle easier because you're so resourced. It gives you a lot of sense of love and acceptance of yourself. All the criticism is gone, and suddenly it's safe. It becomes so safe to move through the second circle. So in this way, I really think like it's gonna really be profound when it's approved, because it's the best thing for trauma especially. But it's just dealing without pain.
Yeah, okay.
With ketamine, it's also it's helpful in a different way because it kind of gives you perspective, so you can see the full picture. It's just not as much loving of a experience. It's more like perspective, and you're looking kind of from
And did you say something about trust or no?
Yeah, with the trust, well, the trust, I can't say it, I don't know if I said it, but you need to trust, well, a therapist, right, or a guide to move through this process. Because once you experience pain and shame and fear, you need to trust someone to hold space for you to move through this process. Otherwise, you're not going to go there. So that's why normal therapy takes a long time, because you meet this person, you don't know them, right? And here you are meant to like go into this deep places in yourself, and you don't like, a lot of people who experience trauma, they don't trust, or they've been let down, and so they don't go there, and so they come to therapy, but they stay here in this outer circle, and they do therapy in the mind, and that's why therapy is not effective. It's just circling stories, telling about my childhood, but not actually doing the work of experiencing this. And that's why I think we have a crisis of therapy, because of this happening. People go and they talk and nothing changes. It's a problem. And then that's why there are other modalities. But with psychedelics, they force us into the experience. We can't avoid it. So that's why I personally believe it is, the future of psychotherapy, because they're not letting us escape into our defenses. Oh, and another thing I was gonna mention that like psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy is very different from like having somebody sit for you or a guide. And so I know some people, have a lot of that experience, but it's very different, because a guide is sort of hold space, and it can be very useful and helpful, but it's just not the same. It's a very different process. So it's more letting things unfold and on its own. And a lot of times, like, your psyche already wants to do this process on its own, so it will unfold exactly that. The therapist knows, it just, they can facilitate it a little deeper, or people be more engaged. Like, I'm usually I follow the process, but I also actively engaged in the process with the client.
So how is it different? Like, because I've done ceremonies, not with MDMA, but with psilocybin and with ayahuasca and with things like that. But I know it's not a ceremony. Is it more like interactive?
It's more interactive. So I don't know, so some guides and sitters, they like hold space and then the medicine does the work.
Mhm.
So it's one way. Another way would be there's shamanic practices of ceremonies and there's like energetic work happening. That's another way.
Mhm.
And the therapy is that we're doing therapy. So we sometimes, you know, we talk, we're more engaged, like, so it's still therapy, but we using psychedelics.
So it's more inquiry, a lot more inquiry.
A lot more inquiry, a lot more like naming what's happening, making it visible, kind of, you know, still processing, right? But going deeper with the process. So still kind of sometimes, and people like to do different things, and people really like to understand what's happening. Sometimes it's all through the body. So I like to incorporate the body a lot. So it's more like feeling, okay, like feeling the pain here and staying with the body and moving it through the body. Depending on the person, some people are more body oriented, some people are more mind oriented, some people are more heart oriented. Those are three centers: mind, heart, gut. Gut is body, from depending on where the person. So it's very tailored approach, and it's, you know, it's very tailored to you and what your psychology is or what your tendencies are. So it's more like that, you know, interactive, engaged. And like I said, I think there's many, like, I experienced a lot of value from ceremonies and things like that. One thing that ceremonies are not good at is working with trauma. And I did work with people who went to ceremony where, you know, defenses were lowered. So still same process, like with all psychedelics, defenses are lowered. And then this pain, the trauma becomes available, but the shaman or whoever holds the space, maybe they're not trained in it, maybe it's not what they do, but they're not able to help the person move through the trauma, and the person gets stuck in trauma and experiences for years after the ceremony. I've seen it happen. That's one of the dangers of something like this, you know, happening. So not good for people with trauma, basically, so ceremonies, or at least maybe there's a way to do it in trauma-informed way, but you know. Same thing with self-guided sessions. I think they're beautiful and can be very helpful, but same thing. If there's trauma, there's some risk to that. Can be, you know, can help the trauma to come up, but not able to move through this. So basically, sometimes we move through defenses, which is this outer circle, but then we sometimes get stuck in this, or the first circle. Psychedelics like help us move through the first circles, and then, but we then get stuck in the second circle. And we, you know, we need to complete the process of moving through it to become in this inner circle. Okay, and that's, yeah, and so that's basically the model. Again, it's not like the ultimate truth, it's something just to have in mind of how it works. And again, like in my own experience, it does work, like it resonates as far as the model, and it sounds like for some of you as well. So yeah, that's what I help my clients with. And so you know, if you're ever interested working with me, you can I'm gonna put my website here, and you can schedule like a consultation or a chat with me, because it is, like I said, it's different from, say, sitting in journeys, and it helps to have a guide or someone to support you through the process. Trauma is also cannot be healed alone. So usually when we do psychedelics alone, sometimes we will avoid going there because it needs to be a safe container, and that's where the therapy comes in. And you know, MDMA assisted psychotherapy is what is becoming approved. It's not even MDMA itself. So MDMA or psychedelic is not like a magic bullet that you take and it's all solves it for you. You still need to do the work, to go through this process. You still need to have the courage to move through this emotion, have the commitment to complete the process, all the things. You are still the medicine. And psychedelic is like a tool. It helps, but it's not like, you probably met a lot of people who do lots of psychedelics and nothing changes in their life. I know I have. And so you can, if psychedelics were what's helped or does the work, then it wouldn't be the case. So it's a tool, and it's a helpful tool, and I love it very much. And it's not for everybody, and there's some risks involved as well. So those for people who like resonate with that, right? Usually people who come to my classes that resonate, like me, that like resonate with that. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there for